Hello, and welcome back to our second iteration of Toad Talks. Tonight's title is The American Bullfrog Invasion, and such a captivating potential conversation here, and we'll get into the depths of what that actually means further into the conversation. But I'll open by saying my name is Benjamin Moore from the Church of the Sacred Synthesis. I'm a co-founder here, and tonight we are talking to Ian Benouis, also a co-founder of the Church of the Sacred Synthesis. And he is in Arizona exploring the habitat of the Buffa alvarius, or more currently known as the Incilius alvarius toad, Sonoran Desert Toad, and exploring its habitat and different biological impacts that the environment currently has on the species. So thank you very much for tuning in with us. And I'll just say, this past weekend, we had a beautiful ceremony where we worked with 5-MeO medicine that this toad so graciously gifts us with. And we had 30 people show up in the live stream and 8 people in person. So I wanted to extend so much gratitude to all of you who attended. And we had over 60 people register. So if you didn't make it in person, you have the opportunity to catch the replay on Zoom at the link that was provided to you. So please, and any member that's a member of the church has access to these videos as well. So if you just stumble upon it, you can find it in your member portal, and you can tune in to these meditations as you wish. So without further ado, we will move into the conversation around the toad. So Ian, thank you so much for joining us. And yeah, please, would love to hear, some updates around how you're doing and how the ecology and how the environment's going out there in Arizona.
Sure. So, part of this is just like picking mushrooms. You're really paying attention a lot to the weather, right? And so, the water cycle of life, the water comes in, the bugs come out, and the toads come out from the bugs and potentially from the water for mating. So the mating really hasn't kicked off yet. It hasn't, because even though there's been like one significant rain event where in Tucson area, general area, about 1.5 to 2 inches came, it was so parched that water didn't stay around. It really didn't. The ephemeral pools didn't maintain temporary breeding pools enough for the toads to come out and get excited. So yeah, that hasn't really kicked off yet. The big updates that I can say is that in the urban areas, the toad numbers appear to be down. What could I attribute that to? So far, a drier monsoon, lots of trash, and people living, on the streets, in the actual washes themselves. Like the toads, when the waters come through and push the toads out of the bottom of the wash, it's the same thing with the people living down there. They come out on the side of the banks. And so, yeah, but I mean, big city problems, drugs and trash and all that kind of stuff. So those numbers appear down. And then on top of that, these are manicured parks in some way where the state's involved in taking care of them. So there was a big storm that came through 2 years ago in the monsoon, and it just took down a bunch of trees. So the thing got a really rough haircut, and that whole kind of river system where it's downtown, and the toads, there are not as many of them. So all those things together seem to contribute. And yeah, we've gone out in some more rural areas, and it's been harder to know if that's affected. It seems to be more stabilized in the rural areas, right, where there's no like development or big city stuff. Yeah, they seem to be pretty much mostly undisturbed and healthy. Okay, sorry. We went to a place that's like a stream coming down. I respect areas, I won't say anything where it's exactly that, but it's the stream coming down from one of these big mountains around. And then it comes in a place where they dammed it as a lake. And then that lake creaks downstream from that. And we walked to the creek, and there's millions of Sonoran Desert tadpoles in those creeks, millions, and
Oh,
you could
wow.
just walk right because it's a ephemeral line that's man-made, dammed up to kind of be like a permanent water supply, but it's away from a river, so the bullfrogs can't get set up there. It's too far out in the desert. The
Nice.
bullfrogs are frogs, and they got to be close to permanent water. And so what I've seen so far is, okay, so we're like, cool, environmental stuff. We're going to take wastewater, recycle it, and put it back in the system. That's cool.
Yep.
Totally cool with that. We're going to do that in outer spaces. You're going to have to drink your water that came from your system. So if that seems to be a good thing. The other thing then is that they are saying, look, we're creating these wetlands. Right? We're restoring the wetlands by putting the water back into this major river system. Except already that happened they finished it 2 or 3 years ago. It's already been taken over by bullfrogs.
Okay. Well, yeah. So
right.
As we move in, yeah. So tell us about the bullfrogs. What are they up to in these areas?
So to put it all in perspective, if you go by weight and length, the bullfrog is number 9 in the world, both categories, and number 10 is the Sonoran Desert Toad. So it's actually bigger, a little bit bigger. Okay. Those are endemic and native to the eastern part of the United States. They were brought into Tucson, Arizona, in the 50s, and other places, California, whatnot. Maybe this is the reason they're not in California anymore. But they were brought in to control bugs, and those are the frog legs that if people ate frog legs or eat frog legs in a restaurant, it's that frog.
Got it.
So it's a frog, so it needs permanent water in that way, where a toad can live in a more potentially arid environment, even though Sonoran Desert Toad is the most aquatic of all toads, or semi-aquatic of all toads. Okay. The big difference is the American bullfrog, because it's set up evolutionarily for a permanent water supply, can afford to have a 1 to 2 year metamorphosis. And if you think about how important the heat is to how fast you can metamorphosize, right? It could be designed for the Northeast United States and still have that luxury to metamorphosize over that entire time. So it's out of nature in the Sonoran Desert, but when you put permanent water there, it can then live in that, right? Okay. So it has a place to reproduce over that long period. And Sonoran has to do it in that little window because that's what it's designed for. So
yeah, but it seems like the bullfrog doesn't hibernate.
No, it can't. Well, no, it doesn't. It doesn't hibernate. So I mean, it hibernates the same way it hibernates in the Northeast United States when it what I'm saying, when it freezes. So, yeah. So it's already set up for that. It's got that waterman advantage over the Sonoran Desert Toad.
So it's hanging out. What I'm getting from this is it's hanging out in these standing bodies of water while the Sonoran Desert Toad is in hibernation.
Yeah, exactly. And it doesn't freeze down here, so
right.
They don't. So they're just chill in the wintertime, and then they get a head start because they can come out a lot earlier. They could come out in March. So like militarily, you come out first, you get the advantage. You occupy the land, then you get bigger by the time the other people show up, and then they can't compete with your size by the time you're ready to compete with them. So, and then the biggest thing is, no surprise. I mean, animals, animals use, different bio weapons against each other, the bugs and terpenes in the plants. And
it seems like, human invaders brought the biggest thing that wiped us out was disease. And is that the same? Yeah. Is that similar to what happens with these animals that are, occupying, like the bullfrog? Is that what it's doing to the?
Yeah, 100%. Right, 5 people survived. 5% of people survived the Columbian Exchange.
Yeah,
and the American bullfrog, it has to really deal with the ranavirus and the chytrid fungus, because those bugs live in 75-degree or under water. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yep.
So they got to live with that. So they're
Yep.
up somewhere, we're above the freeze line in the eastern United States. Yeah. They've got to deal with that. So they come in with their own resistance to that.
Yep.
Sonoran Desert Tadpoles, and I don't know for the other frogs and toads that live in the Sonoran Desert, but for those, the ranavirus is 90 to 100% fatal.
Wow.
So you have to be below 75 degrees for it to mean anything.
Right.
But if you're fighting in that window, like, oh, is it spring enough for me to come out? It's like,
Yeah.
well, the bullfrogs rule because it's 70 degrees. they can have the ranavirus and give it to the Sonoran Desert Toads, and in the water. It has to go through the water, but and the Sonoran Desert Toads or tadpoles, excuse me, they can't do anything. So I've seen now the pools where I've seen American bullfrogs, and where the last time there were 20, 30 toads, Sonoran Desert Toads, and now there was like 4, and I saw just 2 bullfrogs, and you could see that the tadpoles were the bullfrog tadpoles. They were the Sonorans hadn't even got started there. Yeah.
And you're saying this is in contrast just a few years ago.
Just to last year. I mean,
wow.
I realize it's I'll admit it's short data set and everything.
Yeah,
but
well, that's a really impactful understanding because it's been such a short term.
Well, this is my 4th season, and I've never seen American bullfrogs. Wow. And anywhere in their same environment.
Yeah. Yeah. So with that, what can be done, or what are people doing to? Is anything being done? And is there, because it seems to me that these bullfrogs were intentionally brought.
Yeah.
Was there a purpose behind this?
Yeah. Well, think of the cane toads taken to Australia. They're always like, that's to eat some bug. They brought them here to eat bugs and to be frog legs in the restaurant.
Got it. And they just got out.
And they did that everywhere. They did that in California.
You can't keep nature.
They took pythons to Florida.
Yep. Yeah. Oh yeah. Now they're eating alligators. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. So now we say python, but we see a snake behind you. What's that? That Western diamondback.
So that one is a sidewinder.
Okay.
One that does the serpentine motion on the sand to touch the least amount of heat, and also called the horned rattlesnake. That's supposed to be only starting in western Arizona, the part of the Sonoran Desert in the western Arizona.
Yeah.
Which this is why, ladies and gentlemen, it's important before you type too many letters in your keyboard about what's going on in nature that you go out into nature and verify it yourself before you say a bunch of stuff. So if you go on the internet, it says there aren't any of those rattlesnakes in central and eastern Arizona. And that's what my friend said as soon as I showed him that. He was like, that's in, so you know what I mean? Like people, it's anyway. So I've seen a number of rattlesnakes already.
Very cool.
The Western diamondback is was the darker one I showed you the picture of. And man, gosh, treated right. They don't care. They don't care about messing with you at all.
But, exactly.
Yeah. So sorry, but you were asking about sort of how is this invasive species being dealt with? Well,
exactly.
I was blown away. My Airbnb, landlord is like, oh, you have to meet our friend Bethany. It almost sounds like a Hollywood Bethany Durango, and I was like, oh, right, okay, I was like, that's
a Hollywood name.
That's a great name, and I'm like, okay, like, is she like some kind of herpetologist or whatever? And she's like, she's the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services Tucson invasive species strike team lead.
Wow, strike team. It sounds like some sort of operational environment.
Exactly. So, I mean, this is the challenge. They can't get those cane toads out of Australia. Wow. So they've resorted to. I mean, are they realizing that their water reclamation projects are sources of the virus? Where now every season when the monsoon comes in and those tadpoles and the virus that the bullfrogs get head start on. They're literally just clearing out the bioweapon down the entire river system to keep the Sonoran from living in its primal water origin pathways. So, right? I mean, this is what species do. This is, this isn't like evil in that way. So I reached out to her. She's like, yeah, let's hook up. I'm like, well, like, where are you busy? She's like, yeah, because I'm learning how to fire, a 22 rifle, because that's one of their solutions to dealing. They're going to go down to that wetland they made during the day, because the frogs go out during the day,
right,
and start shooting the bullfrogs with a 22. But when the bullfrog makes 20,000 eggs, right? And even though you said it takes that 1 to 2 years, if they got the water, they can tolerate the temperature stuff.
Right.
And their tadpoles are immune to the viruses. In fact, they carry it with them, and then they get a head start. The Sonoran doesn't have a chance. So when we went out and saw the tadpoles in the smaller rivers coming down from the mountains, it was all Sonoran Desert Toad tadpoles. And what we saw down in the main rivers, there were every years where the water was pulled up, was we saw bullfrogs, and saw a couple Sonorans, and all the tadpoles were bullfrogs.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Yikes.
Yeah, it's crazy. So I just want to hook up with these people and get every year where the pool water was pulled up, was we saw bullfrogs, and saw a couple Sonorans, and all the tadpoles were bullfrogs.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Yikes.
Yeah, it's crazy. So I just want to hook up with these people and see what they think about all this. And
what's your plan for that? You have some plan or intention around exploring with them, like what's going on, or do you have?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I want I don't need to understand more history. Just like for all of us, invasive species are usually unintentional. They're not negatively intended; they're positively intended. So, but I don't know that without trying to help take care of the species, I don't know how you can talk about the Sonoran Desert Toad. I don't know how you can talk about eradicating the bullfrog. You know what I'm saying? Because unless you're trying without restoring, it's too delicate for it just to happen on its own. I think you'd have to, start doing some kind of sanctuary model and get that 2 adults from 8,000 tadpoles number way up, and then start reseeding, places. Yeah.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, the sanctuary model, I understand it's very, very complex to raise toads from mated pair into a new series of adult toads through the whole cycle. Is anyone really doing this? Is this something that is achievable with just anybody's land in Arizona or places like that? Can this be done, or does it need like special attention, special equipment?
Sure. Well, the good news is, even if I tell you the secrets and we share the secrets with everybody, unless they really care, they can't achieve the same results. So they have done studies with the Sonoran Desert Toad where they've not ethically, without like killing the animal, done gut checks of what's inside their stomach. And the number one prey inside their stomach is the leafcutter ant.
Okay.
Those are the ants you see on the ground. There'll just be a ton of them walking around with a hole or multiple holes, and they're really big, and they're not aggressive at all. And they're walking out in these long pathways, right, where you see the ground where it's like a trail.
Like a trail, yeah.
So, yeah, exactly. So those are leafcutter ants, and so they're the ones that take the leaves. You're gonna love this. Like, don't let me forget. One of the leaves they take is the morning glory leaves. I'm not making this up, okay? So they take the ocotillo leaves. They cut those leaves and they take them down for the moisture. So it rains and the ocotillo goes pow, and all the leaves come out. And then the morning glory seeds in the ground go pow, and all the leaves come out. And then they go and they take those leaves and cut pieces and then bring them back underground into their multi-chambered, it might go for miles. Ant,
Colony.
colonies.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Yeah.
ant colonies, and they put that wet leaf up there, and then they grow mushrooms on it,
Wow.
and then they eat that. So that's okay.
Thank you, leafcutter ants. You're setting a
Thank
good
you,
example
leafcutter
for
ants.
all of us.
Oh yeah, so this is the
Yeah.
point. If you don't have leafcutter ants, then you're making up some other, wingless fruit fly. You're having to do something else, right, to
Right.
feed them. So on this trip, on the very first night I went out after with some rain, I was like, well, what do the little toadlets eat? I can get my mind around, right? They eat these smaller ants that are out there.
I see.
So
So,
yeah,
so they like ants.
ants is their
Yeah.
number one food. Number
Yeah.
two food is
Got it.
beetles.
Got
And
it. Okay.
there's tons of, and this is the point when you go out in the Sonoran Desert where it rains, a couple inches a year kind of thing. There's just in the right places, there's just ants, 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 ants everywhere. And so the
Yeah.
Sonoran doesn't even have to work. You'll just see them sitting out there in the middle of anywhere, just sitting there waiting for food to walk by. And so they know where the anthills are. They could go and just sit there, and I mean, those ants wouldn't swarm them. Like
Yeah.
I'm not saying they wouldn't fight back, but they're not like
Sure.
army ants or anything. So my point is, they're not worried about food at all.
Yeah.
In a pure Sonoran Desert environment,
Sure.
that's in their ecological niche with the mesquite trees and the saguaro and the creosote and the brittle bush, all these different plants. If they got kangaroo rat burrows and they have ants and they have water, then all the bugs come out and then they eat. And then if it's enough to just eat, they always eat. And whether it was water recently, they eat because the ants are eating the leaves that still came from the water, right? And then if there's enough water, they mate.
Got it. Yeah.
That's their whole game. That's their whole game.
Yeah. And actually, it's interesting. I was thinking about mating, and we talked in the beginning. You mentioned that they haven't started mating yet.
Yeah.
So is that common that they would be this? Would they normally be typically at this time of the year be actively? There'd be enough water for them to do this.
Yeah. This is the peak of the mating season. It should be right now.
Yeah.
And it was a dry enough. It does rain out here a little bit in the winter. It was a dry enough winter that when the monsoon came, it was really hot before the monsoon started. And the monsoons kicked off slow, and then it had one big dump of like 1.5 to 2.5 inches max.
Yeah.
And then other than a 1/4 inch yesterday, maybe eighth or 1/4 inch tonight. Yeah. So it really hasn't kicked off. And Ben, from being out here,
Yep.
There's no choruses of spadefoots. There's, what I mean? And that's the kicker, because those are all smaller, so they can reproduce more. And I mean? So the spadefoot chorus is how the Sonoran Desert amphibian community is getting it on. And we've seen tons of spadefoots, right? And yet, no real mating for anybody. Like last night was the first time I heard spadefoot's mating call.
Huh, okay.
The whole time I've been here. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Wow. Oh well. With that, like, what do you see as coming up in the future? Is there rains on the horizon? Do they expect the season to be wetter as time goes on? It's
so variable. It's really hard, to plot out. And the National Weather Service was predicting that this was going to be a average or a little bit more wet monsoon. It just the monsoon is one of those things, from what I'm getting from folks out here, like it builds and then it just blows up, and it's been building, but it just hasn't blown up. It had like what did the park ranger say? Well, I was asking those guys, and somebody's like, well, we've had one big hit, but that's it, Yeah. So they're looking for 3 to 4 hits kind of thing. And we just had the big first hit. So yeah. So what's being done? I think it's the things one could do would be rules for new developments. It would be habitat preservation. It would be habitat restoration, and I think really just learning more about the ecosystem so they don't start to try to fix stuff. Like, we'll do a water project, and that'll be bring back the marshland. And it's like,
Yeah.
well, dude, no. Well, dude, in Sonoran Desert, there is no marshland.
Right.
I mean, because
Unless
it's
it's
either
artificial, right? Unless they're making
unless that's off the
Yeah.
off the Colorado River, right? That can have cattails on it, but
Sure.
anywhere else, it's a dam or it's a permanent water supply, and then you're possibly bringing these disease vectors. So again, I said for the people to think about this, every time now the monsoon rain comes in, it pushes those American bullfrog tadpoles that got a head start with their ranavirus and chytrid virus all the way Santa Cruz River, Gila River, Colorado River, Baja, California, the Bay of Baja. And then it becomes like a ring of, and then that covers all of all the Sonoran Desert in southern Arizona. Near its lifeblood. You know what I'm saying? It's our main arterial supplies. The toads can live on the desert as long as there's some rain, and they don't have to be just water pooling up for long enough. But
so it's sounding like the writing on the wall here is the bullfrog is one of the biggest threats to the Sonoran Desert Toads, maybe if not the greatest threat.
Currently, because if it can achieve, if you and I were talking in military terms, a 90% to 100% mortality rate of my virus, what am I going to do as my operational battle plan? I'm going to say, hey, Ben, let's occupy the main arterial water supply, set up permanent bases where every time the rains come in, they'll push our bioweapon further down downstream. And then I'll just keep
human strike again.
I'll keep the Sonorans from ever coming back in, and you can still keep them alive outside, but you're going to have these pathways that they won't ever come back into.
Sure. Wow. Okay.
Well, and I'll tell you, I mean, it's this is like what the drug war touches, and the biggest income equality in the planet. I used to say it was the Palestine, Israel border, but I can't talk about that. But it's the U.S.-Mexico border. And that's why drugs come in from Mexico to the U.S. because they're cheaper in Mexico. That's it. That's the whole drug war right there. So we know that a Mexican collector was killed about 3 years ago by the Mexican cartel. And for that sanctuary to keep on operating, they pay the cartel money to be able to collect. And independent of all that data and those people, JP, we're going to hopefully have on the next podcast.
Okay.
He is telling me about how there are, let me frame it this way. I don't want, coming out here, I didn't drive through any Customs and Border Patrol checkpoints. Okay. And if you go south in Arizona, down towards Fort Huachuca or any of these other places towards the border, within 100 miles of that border, well, we're already in it, they have checkpoints along all the state highways. So unless you're fully off-road and driving through people's fences or whatever, you have to go on these roads.
Right.
And so now that the cartels figured out that Toad has money, and we know it's a small market
That's right.
compared to the other things, but it's a market, and that's why they don't want people in their territory, but now they figured out that there's money in it. So the Mexican cartel people are coming across the U.S. border to milk toads.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And where's the new line? The new line of like military, front line?
Yeah.
It's those border checkpoints. Because no one from here wants to go and
down there anyway.
Cross those border checkpoints. And then, that's as far as they can go without getting off grid. I don't think those guys are going to get off grid, right? Get off the roads.
Sure.
They're working down there. So, which is another reason, wow, we used to think, well, if you're in the U.S., you're safe. But the drug war's perverse incentive is so strong that it's pulling Mexican cartel toad collectors into the United States. Remember when Mexicans were growing weed in the United States and poisoning the environment stuff? And remember when Mexico started smuggling high-end weed into Mexico?
Into Mexico,
yeah.
They're not growing weed in America anymore because we are the weed. America is the #1 exporter of cannabis. So
build a bigger wall, and then you pull more. The toad becomes more valuable in the drug market, and then that pulls people across the border. So that's actually an attractant encouraging people. And of course, they're going in places. I've been down there. It's beautiful right by the border. That's where that American-Mexican trail is.
Mm-hmm.
My point is,
Yep.
yeah, it's easy to cross the border down there.
That's right.
Because it's forest.
Yep. Yeah.
So they're just when I flew my UH-60 Alpha Black Hawk helicopter in the Sonoran Desert in 1989 in Fort Huachuca National Training Center to prepare for the Operation Just Cause, the invasion of the Republic of Panama to take down Noriega, we were practicing in the Sonoran Desert. And the most important thing is, I didn't get to fly there during the day, so I don't even know what it looks like. Didn't know what it looked like during the day. And so the biggest thing they're telling us is when you're flying around at night, don't fly into the drug blimps that are tethered to the ground, like a Goodyear blimp.
Yeah.
And it's, looking down on the trails that the smugglers come through.
That's right. So there are all these thermal cameras that are just flying up there.
Yeah, exactly. So my point is these are probably the same trails now. The trails now that people are using to smuggle, that because you and I know, smuggle people in. You don't walk drugs in; they go through ports of entry. 85% of drugs. So these are now the trails that the toaders are coming in. Oh, wow. Right? Wow. The smuggler trails. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So we can talk about the next podcast. But yeah. So
yeah, we can definitely get into that more next round.
Yeah. So it's just
on that note is I'd like to just leave it open for if there's anything else you have that's burning at you that you like to share around the conversation.
Wow,
doors wide open.
Out in the desert, the toads don't need our help other than planet level, weather stuff, right?
Yeah.
Or taking water out of the rivers to drink. So. I think that, I think that, people who want to talk about the toads should come out and find out for themselves firsthand.
Absolutely.
Because they're not biologists either.
Right.
So I've learned so much just getting to be out here, and the toads the environment will teach you. So just really encourage that for people.
Well, yeah. So on that note, just sort of kind of close out the conversation with an announcement around the next Jaguar meditation ceremony. It's going to be located in Tucson on the 17th of August. So we'll be out there, Cynthia and I, and some others will be out there to visit, to get some on the ground information, footage, chat, and do some medicine work around this, and around that space. So if you're watching, and just stay tuned for the information to follow. You'll get invitations around the virtual and in person, and so there's options there to join us in Arizona and really get on the ground and check out the environment, check out these toads out. So with that, I'd like to say thank you all so much. Do you have anything? You have something to add?
Yeah. Sorry.
Please go for it, bro.
So deep in toad world. Yeah, not kind of on the calendar. So the Southwest Funga Fest, the second annual, 2 years ago, was held in New Mexico. That's occurring August 1st, Friday, August 1st, 2nd, and 3rd.
Sweet.
So totally encourage people to come out. You want to intersect. Our homie Ethan's going to be out there at the same time.
Okay.
And telling everyone that's like a good time to come out and meet people that are in church. And then again, what you're saying is the August is the other good time to come out and intersect with us. And the last one is that we're really excited. We kind of mentioned this at the beginning. You're going to call him JP right now. JP, OG Toad Master Jedi, is going to be on our next podcast. He's not in the Ken Nelson lineage, the Army Ranger, veteran U.S. Army lineage that we're in. He's in a lineage where he learned how to milk toads for somebody who did it for 15 years, 15 seasons, and he spent about 5 seasons with him, and this is his 8th season. So we're going to actually get to talk to some people who touch the toads and go to the next step, and they can share how they do that and how they believe that it can be ethically achieved, and then we can talk about the real world stuff of the things that you see out there. Like we saw a coyote last night, we saw a roadrunner yesterday, and you know, has he ever seen any of these toads with this chytrid virus that, you know, people want to virtue signal around wearing gloves on, and it's like, no, that doesn't do anything. So you know, but if you don't know and you just heard there's a virus, you're like, I'm against the virus, down with the virus. I love American bullfrogs. I didn't realize they had the virus. Yeah, you know what I mean?
Welcome to
So,
Facebook.
like, yeah, exactly. So
Yeah,
that's gonna be huge, man.
okay, awesome. We're looking forward to that.
Yeah,
That's great.
right on.
That's great. Yeah, well, you heard it here first. We're going to get some really good information around firsthand information around the historical information around the toads, milking, and how the whole process goes down. So yeah, thank you so much for that information. Yeah, with that, I'd like to say thank you all for joining us, and stay tuned for all the programming that to follow, all the events, the email, and I think that's it. That's it in my notes. So thank you so much, y'all. Have a great night. Love you guys.
Love you, brother. Peace.